Yes Boys, a film podcast, an amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringest bingers. I'm your host JP, and I'm joined by my brother, a professional Hollywood videographer,
Kory, with a story. And today we're working on something that's going to change the world as we know it, for better or for worse. That's my Jeff Goldblum. I don't know if that worked out well enough.
Oh, I thought you were going for the weird guy from the Organ Bureau and the Crimes of the Future.
Oh, no. It's like the opening line of The Fly is Jeff Goldblum. Oh, I'm working on something that will change the world as we know it. Pittsburgh representative Jeff Goldblum, ambassador to the city. Him and Michael Keaton.
Yeah. No,
forget.
he's something all right. I really liked him. I really like him, and we'll talk about him in a little bit later. But before we do, what's going on? How are you doing? What's new?
I'm doing good. Nothing much.
Anything exciting in Hollyworld? Hollyweird?
We're a big project that I still can't talk about yet is making baby steps forward. It was supposed to shoot this past weekend, but pending budget approval and with what I think is everyone hesitating with the state of the recession to see how much money they're willing to spend on some projects.
We're not officially in one yet, by the way.
No. The prospects of a looming one.
Yes.
Is got yes.
The ever dread.
So we're kind of, I don't know. Everything on my stuff end is done, just waiting on budget approvals. But maybe next week I'll have something more to share with you. But other than that, business as usual.
Cool. That's good. Yeah. Well, you know what I've done? I've watched a couple of movies lately. And
really? Which ones?
They were Crimes of the Future and The Fly from David Cronenberg. And I was curious what your personal experiences with the Berg, as I like to call him. We're a couple of boys from the Berg, and we're
talking about the Berg.
And a fan of the Berg, Cronenberg,
the Cronenberg himself. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. I didn't know that much other than it's a name you hear when working in film or when I was in college or whatever. Anything that had to do with kind of like practical horror effects kind of stuff. His name is in there with because of his style. Never actually saw any of his movies though. Joe would always just hear references, whether that be like the Rick and Morty has like a whole episode dedicated to Cronenberging things. And but other than that, Videodrome that I watched with you was the first thing I'd seen from him.
Really?
Yeah, we did that online like Discord movie watch thing.
So I have personally seen several, but not all of them. He's got a pretty extensive filmography, and I always associate when I first got into watching movies, like in a critical way. You hear a lot about the Davids. You got your David Fincher, David Lynch, and David Cronenberg. And I mean they all I think kind of speak to they're edgy, they're dark, but they're also very, very different from each other. So it's interesting that they get lumped together just because of their first name. And that they make good movies and they happen to also be dark. But I've seen several, and I did put you on a Videodrome. I remember that. Since then, I have seen Scanners, The Brood, Dead Zone, which is based on a Stephen King novel, Dead Ringers with Jeremy Irons, which is fucking weird, and then just the ones we've just seen today, The Fly and Crimes of the Future, which I've seen for the first time. I've seen Naked Lunch. I thought you saw Naked Lunch, but I think I might be thinking of my partner.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it.
Naked Lunch is a weird fucking movie. Real weird. It stars the guy from RoboCop, Peter Weller. It's like the only movie I've seen with RoboCop in besides RoboCop. But so yeah, I've seen Naked Lunch. So actually, I mean, I've seen like not almost 10, but not quite of his films, and a lot of them from his era of '79 through '91. I've always wanted to see M Butterfly. I wanted to see Crash. Crash is infamous for being the movie about people that like to have sex in car crashes, during
What?
car accidents. Yeah, that's what that movie's about. Existence is supposed to be like kind of Matrixy, and it has Jude Law has like this like flesh gun that he uses and shoots people with. Very obviously, anything with flesh, anything, is very Cronenberg. That is the one theme that is very much in most of his films, is something to do with flesh or mutilation or mutation or what have you. And both of these movies definitely go into that. Body horror, I think, is the term that people most associate with this man. I think if you Google body horror films, that this man will be at the top of the list of who to watch. And both of these films are definitely exemplary, um, pictures. So I think that's a good background. I don't know if we want to dig into anything personally, but I think we could just go get into the film. So, Crimes of the Future, starring Viggo Mortensen, Lea Seydoux, and Kristen Stewart. It was did
Is it
go
Sido?
compete at what's that?
Is it Sido? I've been saying Sido this entire time.
No, you're thinking of Max von Sydow. It's Seydoux.
Oh, okay. Oh
Max
man,
von
I've been
Sydow
fucking
is a
that up.
different actor. Yeah, she was in. So Lea Seydoux is alumni of this podcast. She was in what's it called, The French Dispatch,
Great movie.
which was great. And Viggo
Death Stranding.
Mortensen, I haven't seen anything for a little while actually, but I know that he's in other Cronenberg movies. Particularly, I know that History of Violence is supposed to be good that he's in.
I
Um,
know his name is so familiar, and I could not think of what movies he's in.
Viggo
But
Mortensen, he's
yeah, isn't he?
Aragorn,
He's
bro.
yeah. I was just about to
He's
say, isn't he
motherfucking
Aragorn in Lord of the Rings?
Aragorn, dude.
All right, that's what I thought. I like could I didn't look it up, but I was just like, I know him from something and can't pinpoint because he
Yeah,
looks
it's
different in
like
the movie.
yeah. He's older, so he's grayer and he's a little thicker. I knew he was before Lord of the Rings actually, because Mom and Dad were really into that movie, The Prophecy.
Oh, I remember that.
With Christopher Walken, and Viggo Mortensen played Satan, and I have like his
Yeah.
scenes like burned in my brain because I was scared of them. And he was a
Wow, I
real
forgot about those movies. There was a whole series that Dad was into.
yeah. But the first one's actually pretty good. It's a pretty good like Christian horror sci-fi thing. The Christian mythology. But yeah, Viggo Mortensen, a fantastic actor. I mean, all three great actors. It had me very interested in what this was going to be. As also, I am a huge fan of David Cronenberg. Just to get that right out of the way, he's not in my top, but he is one of my favorites, especially with. It's like pulpy sci-fi, but it does make you think because there's really interesting concepts. Almost like it's like a mixture of like Geiger and Philip K. Dick or something like that. Is very much the vibe of his films, the more sci-fi ones. But I mean, let's talk in a general sense. How did you feel about Crimes of the Future? I wasn't sure if we should start with this because for as an introduction for Cronenberg, it might not be. I think it is very poor. It I guess it's not. I just said it was a good example of his work in terms of the themes, because it is. But as far as like an entry point for someone that isn't familiar, I think it's not a good place to start. If you are not familiar with Cronenberg, I would do these in reverse. I would start and watch with The Fly. But if you are a
Mhm.
veteran, this is what we are here for, of this kind of stuff. So, Kory, what did you think about crimes of the future?
I I went in not really know. I go blind. I try as much as I can to go blind. And this was one that was truly blind. And first half, I'm liking this. I'm loving the cinematography. I'm having a great time with like the concepts and the characters and everything. I love like the look and feel. And then it just kind of stays the same and nothing really happens. And I kind of was let down. I've I haven't been had a movie that I like roller coastered like this on. I'm like super on board, and then it's just not like it's where it would be like halfway up to being like, oh, this is awesome, and then it just stops there, and then it just does nothing else. And then it was disappointing, but like as it sat with me for another couple days, like I did like it more and a little bit more and more as it sat, but it's just kind of goes nowhere for me, and yeah, it's all right. It's not bad. I don't think it's bad, but it's not great.
I think that this movie is could have been like a little bit shorter and been a Black Mirror episode or something like that,
Yeah,
or like a weird
yeah.
show, and just one episode in an anthology. But I don't
Mm,
think like the longer the movie went on, the more ridiculous and more unbelievable the concept felt.
mm,
And or like in practice it felt, because I think the concepts are interesting, and that's kind of what gets you through, is just thinking about all this in a grander sense of what it means. So if let's just rip the band-aid off. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but
mm.
the movie's very much it's like surgery is the new sex is the tagline. And that we're in a world where humans, I don't know if they're evolved or if because of medical shit, that we don't feel pain to the level that we did. So people are more, and also I didn't catch this from the movie, but I read it in a review afterwards. But that apparently also that we are more resilient to bacteria and stuff, like we're
Yeah, yeah.
immune,
They said that in the movie.
antiseptic organ or insides or whatever, so that we can just
Mm,
open each other up and we don't have to risk infection. So people are just like stabbing each other in the middle of the streets while they're making out and like cutting themselves and cutting each other and moaning, and that's very much the motif that kind of repeats over and over again. And everyone is extremely horny,
mm,
and there's a lot of female nudity, which is something that we can talk about. Um,
mm.
which is something I do want to bring up later. But that is like the major big concept. But then also there's other things where, Viggo Mortensen has a lot of health problems, and he is like that's what I thought it started with, that he has a bunch of health problems, and he uses this bio organic technology bed, and he sleeps in it, and it's supposed to like roll him around and like I don't. It's supposed to respond to his body and how he's feeling and his pain, and help manage it. They only feel pain when they sleep. Is a line also in the beginning. And yeah, so and then we find out that he spontaneously grows new organs, and most of them are benign. They're benign. They don't harm him. And he thinks they don't do anything, so they cut them out. And not only do they cut them out themselves, which is kind of the beginning, we find out that they are performance artists, and they perform live surgery in a artistic way, as a some kind of statement, live for people, and it's legal and everything. But as things go on, it gets more and more underground. Though the setting seems exactly the same, it apparently they tell us that it gets
Mhm.
more and more illegal and underground for some reason.
Yeah.
Um,
To interject, this movie takes place in like 5 locations, and that's it. Five
uh,
rooms, I should say.
Yes, there's not a lot of sets. The budget is small, but like if the concepts are big, and that is already I wouldn't say a recipe for failure or anything like that, because great movies can still accomplish a lot with a little. But it's that this movie not only I just it gave you the broad concept, but there is like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 other layers to this movie narratively. Um, and they can't show you everything because they don't have the budget, and honestly, they don't have the runtime to properly address all these things. So not only that, I mean, I don't. This is getting at. I don't want to get too out of order, but they set all that up, and then they go. That we find out that there is a new established, government. I don't know. Like a bureaucratic agency called, they have to do with regulating the registration of organs. And they talk about how it's this new thing and it's not actually on the books yet, and it's cutting edge, and they talk about like their most famous client is Viggo Mortensen because he cuts out his organs and everyone else just leaves them in, and it's or whatever. Then we find out that Viggo Mortensen then there's this young cop who shows up, and he's got like an accent, and he works for Vice, and that's all we know. And it's not really clear what he's there for, but he's questioning people all around the organ agency, whatever. And that's all you kind of really know. And I didn't really understand what he was. I was like, is the organ shit illegal? Or I thought this was legal, like they work for the government. Whatever. It makes sense later, but at this point, no fucking clue. Then we find out that Viggo Mortensen himself is a cop and meets with the other cops secretly. And they talk about how you're our inside man in this organ world, and you're going to find out what's going on and tell us, so we can deal with it or whatever. I don't know. And then we uncover that, I didn't mention the boy in the opening that eats plastic. So there are people that are artificially, changing their organs so that they can digest plastic for whatever reason, because there's a lot of it. Did they really explain why?
They said that our bodies are evolving to keep up with our technological world, was the line used. And
but why?
It's forced because I guess there's a bunch of random throwaway lines about how pollution's super high, and
is it like to deal with pollution
stuff? Yeah, it's to deal with like food scarcities and pollution and stuff like that, and just like the overuse of plastics and everything.
Yeah, like there's a whole ton. I like it's definitely referring to like there's
it's all in throwaway lines though.
Well, like I saw a study the other day, like the average person has like whatever X amount of microplastics in their body from eating and drinking.
In our brain too. They found out they can permeate your brain skin, the microplastics.
Yeah, so I think it's something about that, and it's just like, changing our body so that we can actually consume it rather than be poisoned by it. And whatever. That's another big heavy concept that is looming throughout the film.
I feel like I don't feel like that concept looming throughout the film until like the third act, the beginning of the third act.
Opening. It's the opening of the movie, and then we're
like, yeah, but it doesn't really come back to plastics as a thing until
like halfway through. Yeah, about halfway through. Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. But it's like there, and then once it comes together, just like, oh, okay, this is actually a big part of this, is this plastics thing. And then we find out that his dad artificially, the dad artificially changed his body to eat plastic. And then he had a kid, and the kid was naturally able to do it. Somehow, miracle. You can't, like, even Viggo Mortensen says, like, you can't evolve that fast. And he's like,
you can't.
It's a miracle.
Yeah, he was like, if you cut your finger off, that doesn't mean your kid's going to be born without that finger. Was the analogy used.
Yeah,
and it's like
there's no explanation for why this happened.
They're plastic eating Christ,
and basically plastic eating Christ is what they're going for here. And but he's dead already. The kid's dead because his mom murdered him. It's just like a lot of like, so those are all the concepts. I think I don't think I've missed too much. But it's just all that. And everyone's constantly expositing. Like, it's a scene where someone's in a room and they're expositing about this shit. Like, one of these things. Or a combination of these things. And, like, the movie climax is them doing an autopsy on the boy. And and I mean, we can reveal that in a little bit. We don't have to reveal it right away, but um
What, that it's the only penis in the entire movie as a child?
no, yeah, well, that I'm gonna get to
Because I
that.
thought that was odd.
Yeah, that we're gonna get to that because there's something that weird about about that. Not the penis in particular, but the penis in conjunction with how much female nudity there is to no male nudity.
Yeah.
Um, and like I think that's where. So I think we can talk about critiquing everything, things going on here. Is the concepts are interesting, sure, but there's a lot of like some of it feels hollow and doesn't feel like it goes far enough or it is fully developed. Like it feels like some of these concepts are half baked vehicles to just
Mhm.
have a pussy bed and a sarcophagus autopsy thing and like
Yeah.
these things that are drawn up in art department in the art direction shit and they don't feel fully fleshed out and understood and so everything with the sex there's tons of female nudity. Great, cool, whatever. And I don't and like this is, but it isn't the 80s and 90s anymore. Like,
Mhm.
it's like
Like, it has to have more
gratuitous.
purpose.
It has to have more purpose. It feels gratuitous, and like, yeah, it's about sex, but like, you need to also show that sex is more than just naked, beautiful naked women, attractive naked women. We're beyond that, and then I
Yeah, we
feel
need
like
more.
the movie was also dancing around like progressive surgery in general, like
Mhm.
whether it's prosthetics or maybe body modification in terms of how you look. With the art scene where the guy has his eyes and lips sewed shut with all the ears,
Mhm.
but also I think it very much they were dancing around it, but with gender as well, like in terms of gender reassignment surgery or
Mhm.
hormonal treatments and those kinds of things. Like I think it was championing them as progressive and as the future because like in the future these kinds of things will be commonplace and like and normal and whatever and normalized but I feel like it's like doesn't go far enough in that like it's not
I feel like
saying
it
that.
I didn't think it went in at all, to be honest, and,
There's
like,
a couple. There's a
I can
few
kinda see
lines,
it
and I
now.
don't know them in particular. But it was definitely like alluding to it a little bit, but it really
Mhm.
didn't like say anything like far enough. It felt like like 1 foot in and not really trying to dive any deeper than that.
Mhm.
Like it's like a vaguely political, but it's not really political at all.
Mhm.
And it's social, but it's not really like it doesn't speak too much other than like and like also plastic surgery is another part of it as well. Is people that want to change their bodies the way that they look. And like in this, it's like they're like with the beautiful woman who's slicing her skin open. I think I have the picture. There's a picture right here. And she has a demonstration, and they're like filleting her, her face, and she was very happy or whatever. And she's like talking about how it makes her feel more beautiful or whatever. It makes her, um, she's more comfortable about her body, and she feels
Mhm.
better about her body. To do this like mutilation stuff, but and like I don't know, I feel like sometimes I was gonna say it's messy. It's not only half baked, but if you are gonna like speak about the progressive stuff of it, and but also compare it to self mutilation, it's like a
Mhm.
messy line. Like the cert is this, like I don't even know is it trying to say that like this stuff is like modern technology and surgery is good or a good thing or if it's a bad thing or if it's trying to say both like it's just a mixed bag like there are progressive and positive things but there's also um like people are harming themselves or
Mhm.
whatever but I don't know it seems messy and
I
unclear is all
Yeah,
really.
I could, because I took it as, which is, I think everything you're saying, I see. But my initial takeaway from it was just like people will always just go towards pleasure regardless of what that is, and if that is, if if that surgery and self mutilation is the newest form of pleasure, then that's just where mankind's gonna go. Uh, and it just like this movie's just like the extreme portrayal of that, I guess.
But it's like
But
people get addicted to surgery today,
yeah,
like
yeah,
people.
that's true. Yeah,
And I think it's just like it's trying to say like that's just gonna keep going. That's just gonna keep on going, and it's gonna become to a point where it is like sex. It is a pleasurable act. Um,
yeah,
it is. It's
'cause-
it's like freeing, or there's something about it that makes someone feel good. To do that. Which then makes it good. But it's just like
mm,
some of the portrayals and some of the and like it's shocking, and I guess that, like that's always been his thing. Like it does just because it's ugly or just because it's shocking doesn't mean that he's trying to say that it's bad. It's just like that's his style of presentation. It's trying to like desensitize you to that. I think is a part of it as well. Um, I don't know. Like sometimes I think about it and it seems good, but then there's some of it seems just a little messy. And I don't think it's bad. And I don't think it's like cancel or anything like that. Like
oh no, no,
no
no.
way, no way. Even with the female nudity and like it's
Mm,
just some of that seemed dated, like in terms of what you're trying to say about sex and um and just like the comparison, or in like there is the progressive thing I was thinking about is Viggo Mortensen with the Stussy, the Stussy,
the, the stomach pussy.
the stomach pussy, where at one point he gets a zipper put in his stomach so that you can just easily access his organs at any time. And Lea Seydoux gives him cunnilingus, although the equivalent to cunnilingus,
Yeah, she
to
earns
his
her
his
Red
flesh
Wings.
hole. And I feel like that is the one that really made me think of, um, um, I don't know, like yeah, just like sexual things or gender things, or just changing your body, and because you feel more comfortable in it, or changing your body for a sexual reason, or changing your body for a
Mm,
pleasurable reason. Like there's a lot of layers here, and I think that is what makes the movie interesting in concept. But as far as is this movie entertaining, that is where excuse me, that is where I would say no. It is not shocking. This movie, like the marketing for this movie was like, oh, so many people walked out of the first screenings. This
two people
movie's the
walked out of our theater.
the most shocking movie of 2022. But did they walk out because it was bad though, or did they walk out because
It
it
was
was
in the
gross?
first. It was the first 20 minutes, and like we were on like the second surgery scene, and this is an older couple walked that right out. Uh, so I assumed it was just from the like the graphicness of it.
Yeah, no one walked out of mine. There wasn't a lot of people in mine. More
I
than
was
I thought.
shocked.
Honestly, there was more people in
Yeah,
mine than I thought.
mine
Um,
was almost half filled, surprisingly, and I went late. Like I went this past week, which was its last. It came out of theaters on Thursday, and I saw it I think on Monday.
that's the
And I
thing.
was
I think when you only have one screening a day, though, everyone who's going to see it throughout the day just ends up going at the same time.
yeah,
Um,
that is true.
but yeah,
But
I wasn't really shocked really by it. It was like there were some things that were harder to watch if you don't, if you have a
mhm.
hard time seeing people with needles or cuts. Riss would have been awful watching this movie. She has a hard time watching people get cut. Um, so there's a lot
Yeah,
of that. But really, it's not really that crazy. It's not really that like it's sexy, but it's not really that graphic in a sexual sense even either.
yeah. If you can
Um,
handle those like surgery shows where they have like the contains graphic
that
actual
isn't even
surgery
as
footage,
bad. This
it's
is not even as bad as that,
yeah, I'd say it's in that. If you can handle that, then this is fine.
and that's real.
Um,
That's fucking real.
yeah, because you can tell what's like the organs are CGI on it too. Like there is a lot of practical effects, which I appreciate in this. There's more
Yeah.
practical effects than I thought there was going to be, but like the main big surgery things are all CGI, and you can tell. And like, yeah, it's a little gross. Like Kylie hid behind her popcorn for a lot of like the extremely graphic stuff. But the only one that really like had me go, oh, was the stomach eat out part. That one
That's
I even
Stussy.
like kind of looked away. Yeah, the Stussy scene. I uh I looked away for a little bit, but yeah, other than that, it's not like it's I honestly based on like that tagline, like the tagline and Kylie saying that she read people walked out, I was expecting something more in the vein of like Hostel or the later Saws of just kind of gratuitous horror.
Well, yeah, but
Uh
then yeah, that's just
but
like there's a difference between torture porn and like
yeah, yeah. I was expecting
porn
more of
body
that.
horror stuff.
Yeah.
And like that,
But this was
yeah, that's
I was gonna
just
say this is not bad.
yeah. Well, but I don't know. So as the movie started, I just like saw it. I was like, they just like how many. I didn't like the movie. Just let's just get that out. I don't think I was clear yet. The beginning, once they just introduced the fifth or sixth concept, I was like, this is just. I knew there was too much to handle for this film. There's too many concepts. There's too many things. It's you can't properly flesh all this shit out. The whole undercover cop thing was half baked,
Oh my god, I know. It's like
forced.
it's said in a throwaway line, but it like still somehow affects the plot, but it at the same time it doesn't really. Nothing really like if because Viggo Mortensen is our main person that we're following, but nothing in his realm really changes other than him learning he might be
It gives him
evolving
a
to
reason to
plastic.
want to meet the mom, and like he interviews some people. He does like there's a
Yeah.
little bit of detective work, but like and it's kind of it's like trying to go for a little bit of noir. It's definitely trying to go for some noir,
Yeah,
but it
but
doesn't
it should
really
go
work.
more in on that though. It would be so much cooler.
But
This
that's
is one
what
of I
there's just not enough
for,
space. There's too many. That's
it,
what I mean. There's too many things. You can't
yeah.
do that and be horny and be like have all these surgery scenes and have all these sex scenes and have them fucking groaning in a chair. Uh,
Yeah, I think that, and this is the first time on the podcast I think I've said this, and this is one of the few times I think this about a movie. But this movie would have benefited from scaling up. I think, uh, just a little bit,
I
but
don't think I
enough that
wanted to
gives a
watch
little
this
more.
movie longer. I don't think I would
Not
have seen
no,
the movie.
I don't mean scaled up as in length. I mean like production value, like
I don't think
money.
there's enough
Give it a little
time.
bit of a give it a little bit of a world outside of five rooms to help really sell like
The script is my real
the
problem.
bigger concept.
I think the script
Um,
is bad, just straight bad. I think the script is bad. I think the story is bad. I think like I know I'm just being like broad, and we can go deeper if we need to, but like I think the script is the true problem. Because it's too big for this movie. It's too
that's what I'm
because not
saying.
even but not even in a budget sense. I'm beyond budget. Like money doesn't fix everything, and I don't think money would fix this movie because the problem is that there are too many concepts for even the runtime to contain. Because you have to exposit a trillion things. Every scene is more exposition and more exposition and more telling and telling. And yeah, you could show more with more money, but the time is still the biggest constraint. And this movie is not that long, thank God. It is only what's an hour and
Hour
45,
40,
hour 40.
40.
Um, but like and I'm sure budget would help, but I think the problem lies in the script. It feels convoluted. It feels like there's just way too much going on, but also nothing going on at the same time. Because like that's the with the budget, I agree that visually there's not a lot going on other than the surgery scenes.
Yeah,
And just
all of the
these
money went to that.
and like the creepy, it's creepy and there's a vibe, but it's kind of empty, and it just ends up being a lot of people talking and telling you, oh, this is about this, and then it becomes so much information that I can't even remember it all. And it's how it
Hmm.
makes it hard to keep everything straight. And then like, and then so then you end up throwing things away, like, oh, he's a cop, because then they introduced the cop thing about what, halfway or like maybe a
About
third,
halfway.
and then at the end, it kind of goes away and it comes back at the end. You're like, oh, fucking yeah, he's a cop. It didn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And then he leaves the force or what. I'm not working for you anymore. I think I'm a plastic man now. Well,
Yeah,
we can
it's
talk
yeah.
about the final twist, but yeah, sorry, I've been going ranting for a little while. Go ahead.
What I was gonna say was when I say like scale up that with budget and everything, it doesn't mean just make this same script with more money. I mean like scale up the concept, like the whole like from the beginning. If you were like, all right, you're gonna have $10 more million than you thought to make this movie, like to make a movie,
Yeah,
flesh it out. Like here's some things to make it feel bigger, like because it's too small. It's too boring. Like not just boring, but it's just like it's you're not given enough information. It's all exposition, but at the same time, you're not given enough to really fucking understand why all of these things are trying to all happen at once, like themes wise. And I feel like if you get it out of these small boxes and you give it a little bit of scale and you give it a little bit of showing, a lot more, I should say, showing than telling, you really could drive home, have an easier time driving home the concepts. And I was thinking earlier where you were talking about, I wonder how much the about like you're talking about dancing around certain things, where having like only being like a foot in the door on things, and I wonder how much of that is intentional, as like in maybe like an older man not trying to, because he's like in his 80s, trying to not like deal with the topical things, and just I'm just gonna play it safe and make this, and we're not going to
Just
go
like
too far in any
this had
direction.
cuttable. Like you just
Like,
didn't need all that. You just don't need all this.
yeah, I agree, but I don't know.
I just it
It's
seems indulgent, but also like it didn't go far enough. It's weird.
yeah.
It's so weird how I can feel that way, but it feels like I'm like being
Mhm.
hypocritical or whatever, contradicting myself. But it really, that's how I feel about the movie. Is it's like not enough, but too much at the same time, because it's a small movie, but it's got big ideas, and I think the script um is my thing for some reason. Yeah, you'd have to rework the entire script to be more I don't. Yeah, just you have to restructure the movie and change, take out
Mhm.
certain fucking things, and or you can expand upon other things. I don't know. I had it something in my head, but it's just frustrating because I don't even know if I see a good movie in here. I just think I see good
I
ideas. I
yeah,
think that is different. Like we watch movies and I'm like, oh, there's a good idea in here. It needs to be like chiseled away.
mm.
Whereas this, I think, has some good ideas but is kind of a mess.
Yeah, I think that the like I kind of like I love the setting for the most part. I like the concept of like we've evolved to not really feel pain or infections, and like I love like that the surgery thing, and people are growing organs or whatever. But then it just like when you get to that third act, it's just everything just falls flat. It doesn't matter. None of it matters, because in the end, the only everything returned to as it was before the movie started. Uh and it just kind of feels pointless. And it's done in such an anticlimactic way too. Like when they're drilling the dudes, the dad in the end of the movie or whatever, it just feels like it's just all right, it's just happening, but it's
It's
not a
just
big
like
deal.
wrapping. It's just like taking care of loose
Yeah, we're
ends.
yeah, it's like a non-ending ending. I felt like, or like it
The
just
end, the true ending was when we found out the twist about
yeah, but
Vigo.
I was still just kind of like,
Because I felt the same way. I
uh,
was already over. That was the thing. I was already over the ending. I was like, oh wow, this is really deflating, and like kind of like whatever. I don't really care. It's kind of a we end where we begin kind of thing, and
yeah,
which is lame in this movie. And then we get the twist, and well, let's say what it is. So he's been, Viggo Mortensen has been having a hard time eating, and he has this special chair that tries to help him eat, and so he can get down enough to live. And they've been like planting things throughout the movie, like, oh, these organs you're growing, you probably need them. They're probably for something. Blah blah blah. Stop cutting them out. So then he stops cutting them out, whatever. And then in the end, the towards the end, the dad's like, "Hey, I think you're a plastic eater. You should try it." But the thing is, if he tries it and he's not a plastic eater, he'll die because it kills all regular humans if you eat their. They have like chocolate bars that are purple, that are actually
yeah,
plastic bars. And in the end, he eats one, and he starts crying because it's so good and it's so tasty, and he's so happy. And
yeah.
yeah, that's it, and that's how the movie ends. Is him crying, tears of
But
joy.
it's yeah, so it's like humankind is actually evolving into that, but it just took fucking this. I don't understand. I don't even understand how it would happen. Because the sun thing, I kind of get. All right, your organs and now genetically, you were able to pass those replaced organs down onto your kid naturally.
I
Sure,
I don't. I think that
I
there's
will.
no science in that, but yeah,
There's no science in that, but if that,
in a fantasy sense, like Jesus miracle, because
yeah,
the miracle thing was a Jesus thing, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
Jesus.
sure. But Vigo, that doesn't. It just doesn't feel fucking. It felt forced. It felt like, all right, we need an M Night Shyamalan on twist. Here it is,
It's
and
just like you're rejecting your evolution, and the whole time you were rejecting your future.
yeah.
Is that
And
maybe that's the crime? The true crime of the
of
future.
the future. Yeah, I don't know.
What was the
I
crime
couldn't
of the
even tell what
future
the
was
fuck was illegal and
the
what wasn't.
organs we made along the way.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Was ignoring the
I
organs we made along the way.
uh, I think I don't know. This is one of the movies that I think is just like my love for ASMR got me through the first half because there's like minimal score
Yeah,
and
it
this
was
very somber talking.
yeah, it reminded me of Lynch, the way the sound
Yeah,
design.
that's a big thing of what I like about everything about Lynch other than Eraserhead is the
That's his
ASMR.
yeah, his sound design where it's no like very little score, it's either ambient synths or just like whooshing.
Or it was called like diegetic sound, where it's like the natural sounds of the world, which I like. Like when or all you're hearing is just like the spoon touching the teacup or setting
Yeah.
down or whatever. Like that got me through the first half of this movie. I think with the along with the cinematography, there's a lot of really good cinematography. I give credit to the DP
Yeah,
for
he's one
making
I'm
a lot
pulling
out
up
of a
right
little
now.
with locations and such and everything. You know, it's like Dune where it's just nothing but concrete walls everywhere. But the but yeah, then it's just the second half. It just doesn't pick up, and it needed to pick up in some way to have more tension of some kind. It just never feels like it has true tension. I never feel like anyone's at risk. No one's at risk of being arrested or being killed or anything. Nothing feels like whatever. And then when they just like the doctor, what I didn't understand, why the fuck did those girls kill the doctor that put the zipper in Vigo? Uh, Oh no, I do know why. It's because, and this was also fucking kind of. It was just like dropped in there as if you get it, I think, where it's like the doctor who gave Vigo his zipper in his stomach is also like eating in one of those fucking weird chairs because he can't eat well without it, and he gets drilled in the head too and killed. And I'm like, oh, so okay, so it must be anyone who can't eat normally is using
No,
these chairs to help eat,
oh, I
is
think
trying to
no,
be.
I think he was trying to he was digging into the plastic eaters. And the girls I think were working for the government to kill anyone who was related to the plastic eaters.
Yeah, I knew the girls were working for the government, but it's
But like
the
they were
with the
trying to wipe out the plastic eaters.
yeah,
Like
I just
genocide them.
but so that it was that doctor, the doctor putting organs in plastic eaters then,
I
like
think he
the
maybe he knew something about it. He was connected. I can't remember. I'd have to rewatch the
yeah,
scene where
I
they talk because
I
there was shit he said in that scene that he knew more. He revealed shit to Viggo Mortensen about like what was going on underneath, and then they kill
yeah,
him. This is something like that. I don't remember the exact shit
floppy,
he said, but
floppy.
it didn't bother me. Um,
That's all I have to say
yeah.
about
The only other main thing I wanted to bring up is Kristen Stewart had a cool performance. She was like this nerdy, horny girl, like uptight office worker girl, and that was. But she loved going to the sex shows. And like she was like very much like the I'm repressed and nerdy, but I'm actually secretly a freak thing.
I did not care for her performance, but after it's only because of this. After
Well, it's
watching
very
Spencer last
character
year,
actor. It's very character actor performance, and that's why I
like
liked it.
I think she fit perfect for this, but after seeing the three Twilight movies last year and Spencer, I'm convinced she plays the same person in every movie.
I
She
don't
just
think
does
she played this. Her performance is nothing like her Twilight performance.
everything is just getting in super close, pulling the hair behind the ear and going "Ugh," while she talks. I just can't take her
But like
seriously
her
anymore.
delivery of her lines is not completely different.
Like,
Like that's why I didn't understand why you're saying that because it's her
it's the
performance
same.
is
She does
different.
how she does her like awkwardness or whatever is like the same thing. The way like it's like it just feels like she's doing the same thing, especially off of Spencer, because Spencer's the whole movie is that because it's her
But
just
I'm talking
like
about like the
having.
way she's saying her lines. I mean, like her body language. Yeah, I get that. I totally see that.
No, even how she like says the lines and stuff like when she does her like shaky when she gets up close or whatever. So it's the same.
But she's
It's
like
like the
talking really
thing.
fast and like this character definitely is not the same as Bella Swan. Bella Swan
Well,
talks super slow
you need
and
to no you need to see Spencer though. Is for that part. Spencer is just her mile a minute the whole movie,
but she's
and just
British.
well, obviously, but it's in how she performs the stuff. Just because it's with a different accent
I
doesn't
mean,
mean she's not
yeah,
performing
yeah.
it.
I see. I'm not doubting that there's similarities, but like I feel like there's definite differences in the performances as well. I think like you're focusing on the similarities, and maybe I'm focusing on the differences. But
Yeah.
um, but
I just had
I
a
but
hard
like
time. It just felt like it was the same for me, so I just didn't care. Like, yeah, it was fine. It works for this movie. I thought, but it wasn't anything like
it's
special for
just like
me, I guess.
nothing. Like it's just like Bella Swan is nothing like this, other than being awkward.
Her thing that Bella does the same thing. She does the same
I
thing
don't
with all
even
the
know what
characters.
that means. Like I don't know what that means. Like,
All right, after the podcast, I'll give you some
well, like
examples.
no, I know what you're talking about with Twilight, but like, she was like awkward and horny is definitely what she was in this movie, and it's similar for sure, but it's just like her character's defining thing was like also like the way she's talking really fast, and she's really nerdy, and really like she's like really knowledgeable, like inside information, so she's like I don't know, like there's an archetype that she was kind of channeling for me, especially like I could see it in like noir movies that have that kind of a character. um so yeah, I don't know. I know what you're saying, but I don't think it's that bad.
I think it works for this either way. I think she wasn't bad in the movie.
I think she's like
I'm good.
the best thing in it, in my opinion, personally.
I think her and Vigo are.
Vigo, no, Vigo and Leia are good actors for sure. Like, and their performances are good. I just like they're very chill, and they speak slow, and they're so cool. They're so cool artists. Um,
Oh man, the fucking black cloak we didn't even talk about. Talk about
yeah, and
the
just
cool.
like this, I don't know. Like I didn't hate the performances or anything, but it's the characters I don't know if I liked.
Mhm.
And I think that will be maybe the final thing we wrap this up with. But well, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
I just thought of the black cloak thing. The whole movie, Viggo Mortensen walks around like one of the fucking guys in the background of the Mortal Kombat 2 level with the cloaks. The entire movie, which is just I don't understand the point of it. He was wearing a mask half the time. If no one's getting infections, why is he coughing and masking? Or if he's just trying to like hide his identity, he looks like no, he looks like the merchant from fucking Resident Evil 4. That's what he looks like.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's definitely what it looks like.
and I don't get it. What the point of the outfit
Well, like
was?
he wears
No
a
one else is.
mask everywhere because he's sick. You know, he's like his health is fragile. And he's like wears a big cloak to like because his body's like could be, you know, he's changing his shape all the time because all these organs coming in and out of him. And I got what they were going for. It was like supposed to be like a future modern version of a big trench coat, and then like a hood and a mask instead. And like the mask I think is remind me of the pandemic because people wearing masks and like and that kind of stuff. um but yeah, it was goofy, but I didn't mind it. I got what he was
I was
going
into it by
for.
the end of it.
I
I
got
was
what he
into
was
the
going
cloak by the
for.
end of
It's
it.
like
Yeah.
that thing. Um, but all right, there was a quick thing I want to wrap this up with is I don't know, people that have listened to this podcast, people that know my tastes versus your tastes, and or even our taste in general, that they know that I do usually gravitate towards weird, abstract stuff, whether it's gross or whether it's, you know, it's like thought provoking, or whether it doesn't, you know, maybe it doesn't even mean anything, but it's just cool. I like all that kind of stuff. I can like a boring movie if it says a lot with a little, or if it's, or you know, doesn't say anything in a practical narrative sense. Um, I really liked, you know, um, what's it called? We watched. I can't think of any off the top of my head that we've seen recently. Oh, fucking Stalker or something like that. Like I like that kind of stuff. But I think there is a point when weird or abstract, weird or avant-garde art gets like up its ass. I don't know how to say it any other way. Pretentious is probably the critical word for it. But I think it gets pretentious, or it starts to get convoluted. It starts to miss its own point. It starts to become less minimal because it's doing so much, and it makes it like corny, or it makes it trite. It makes it boring. It just doesn't. It isn't executed on a. It doesn't feel like the ideas are executed well. Though, like, and then I think that there are people that don't truly know the difference, and they just like weird stuff. And just because something is weird and gross and whatever, that they're like, this is good. I don't understand it. Put a rubber stamp on it. It must be good. And I think like maybe even at a time you might have thought that of me, like, oh, it's weird. He's just gonna obviously like it. But like no, like it has to have weird value. And I don't know if that. I'm sure you understand that now, but it's just like as
No,
time
yeah,
has
it all
gone
depends on
on,
the
it
purpose.
in this podcast, it's one of the purposes is understanding those kinds of things, like the good in the normal stuff that is done incredibly well, like Spielberg, and the good in the weird, in the minimal, and the abstract, or the stuff that challenges you as an audience or as a viewer. And I think that's what this movie falls short of that for me. It's not terrible. I don't even know if it's bad, but I think that this is not a great movie, and it's definitely one of the weakest. It's probably the worst Cronenberg movie that I've ever seen. And it's close. Like Dead Zone and is not that great, but I think it's just it's less weird, so it's more digestible. But yeah,
Well, having that, when you were talking, I was you said something that made me think. I wonder what would happen if you restructured this as like a disjointed film rather than a narrative, or like
like Tarantino it.
a normal. Yeah,
I
like
don't know.
you
That's
take
like
out a
the
lot
I
of
don't
the
know how to say
exposition,
it any
but
other way.
yeah, you don't. Yeah, you just have these like more wild
Like
things going around, and then
like
it leaves you to
vignettes.
piece it together, and then have not that twist, but a better one or something. I don't know. This guy is a legend, and I'm just some dude on a computer.
Oh
But
yeah, of course. We
I
always say that is always true.
but I will say that coming off this movie, this is my final note. I feel like David Cronenberg just made the ultimate porn for himself before he died.
Yeah, that's probably it.
This is
Um,
everything he's wanted to jerk off to. He got it and make it in, and
and
is
like I
making it
think
happen.
is referring to his own, like his old decay. Like Viggo Mortensen is a little bit of a proxy maybe for him, because it's like
Yeah,
he's referring to his like old decaying body, and I'm not so good at the old sex, and I'm not so good at the old sex.
yeah.
Um, I there was something I was gonna say, but I forgot. So I can just wrap it up here. Yeah, Cronenberg is a legend. But I think there is a point when people, even the greats, age, and not everything that they make, is gonna be as good as their Imperial phase. Um, but that doesn't mean doesn't have value or it's not worth watching or whatever either. And I'm glad I saw this, but also it is my least favorite of his stuff. So, are we ready to score Crimes of the Future?
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. 2.5.
All right. So I've wavered. I've wavered between 2 and 2.5 this whole time, and I had to tell myself I had to give it the Atomic Blonde test. Did I did I like this movie? Because I feel like that's become my barometer of like if you're
I like the
if you're
Atomic Blonde a
lower
lot
than
more than this.
Atomic Blonde, you're not a good movie. If you're higher than Atomic Blonde, you're a solid movie. I don't know what that says about Atomic Blonde, but that is in
It's
my
fine. It's a
rankings.
fine movie. It's okay. It's not great. It's not bad, but it's just it's a movie. It's
I don't even
okay.
know if it's not. I would say it's not good. It's not bad. And I would say that this is below that. So I'm gonna give this a 2. I
Wow.
think at the end of the day. So
Nice.
I think we need to make clear that critically this is reviewed well. I saw a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. All the people I follow, I gave it 3s and 4s. So on Letterboxd. So I think
I mean,
we're in the minority here. We are in the minority here.
I can see why people like it. I myself I find a lot of redeeming things about it, but I just don't. The whole second half just destroys itself. I just don't give a shit because like afterwards, there's nothing worth it. It there's even with the revelation that Vigo's plastic eater, you're still in the exact same spot you were in the beginning of the film, but now you just know that those things exist. And I don't know. It just kind of, but it's fine. It's fine.
All right. Man, this was a good movie to talk about. We actually talked about it for a while. So yeah, let's move on. To a classic of Mr. Cronenberg's. Some might say his like some might say it is his best film, or it is his most known film, maybe his most mainstream film. Um, but is The Fly. 1986 is The Fly, starring Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. Gina Davis being, she's in like so many big movies in this era, in the 80s and 90s. Um, like,
Jeff Goldblum in the '90s really broke out.
and this is a breakout film for him, for sure. Um, as a hunk, as a nerdy hunk, because it's pre Jurassic Park. So yeah, this is also, I think this movie is a remake of an older film
Mhm.
called The Fly.
I think it's from like '58. I
Yeah,
think.
1958. Um, and so you can see the bones of it in there, but it works really well. Like it's a simple concept, simple enough, but it still works for today. The teleport, and like the teleportation trope has been used so many times. I feel like in
Mhm.
things, like, oh, you went in a teleporter with a bug and you fused. Like you went in a teleporter with another creature and you fused. Um, like I've definitely seen that in many things. But
Mhm.
what? Like, so where do we begin with The Fly? It is much. So this is an example of a movie with heady concepts, sci-fi concepts, though it still works in a pulp sci-fi level, small level. Um, and it's not too much, but it's still fucking big. So the body horror, is gross and whatnot. But I think that's why this movie is considered a sci-fi horror classic. Because it just works. It just works. What did you think about The Fly?
I thought this was a blast. I know this isn't like a fun movie necessarily, but that's when Kylie asked me what I thought of it. I described it as that. It's like it's
It's pretty
fun,
fun. It is pretty fun.
especially compared to the other movie. But well, Jeff Goldblum's just got so much charm, and just he's it's what I was saying to you at the graduation party yesterday was like you don't realize how many like Jeff Goldblum like quotable and like things come from this. Like the whole South Park episode where Jeff Goldblum is talking to aliens or whatever, like that pulls way more from like this and Independence Day than I thought.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Where like even the opening line of the movie line you hear people say all the time, and it was just so cool seeing that. And then also this is like the youngest movie I've seen Jeff Goldblum in. I think he's like 34 in this, and just looks great. But it's cool. My big thing about this that I go back and forth on whether I like it or not is like when you get into the 80s style of like kind of horror-ish, you either have the Nightmare on Elm Street, which will light things a little darker, or you have like this style, which is like Videodrome, where everything's still well lit and you can
Yeah.
see everything. There's no hiding anything for horror. It's just all in your face. Like when the Inside Out baboon, it's just bright white light. You see how it all looks or
Yeah, I
whatever.
kind of
Whereas
like
even
I like that as a change up. Everyone, like not every horror
yeah,
movie has to
yeah.
be really dark. And like this, like the horror in this is what you see. Like they want you to see all
Yeah.
the special effects. That will work for cutting edge. Not maybe
Mhm.
not some of the makeup, but like the final fly monster and stuff is pretty
Mhm.
cutting edge for the time. Some of the special effects.
Yeah, it looks great. A lot of the stuff held up. But yeah, it all works well with this movie, but it adds to that more fun. Like I know this is I don't know how you're gonna feel about this, but it has like that like goosebump book cover, like the cover of the paperbacks, but like if it was a movie.
It is
It's like the vibe.
oh, and that's what Goosebumps is essentially children's versions of pulp horror novels.
Yeah,
And this is very much got a pulp horror vibe. Apparently, they made a couple sequels to this.
I
Um,
saw that there was a second one because Jeff Goldblum has a cameo in it. But
um, but but yeah, I don't. The story's really good. I do have some issues, but for the most part, it's really easy watch. You kind of know where the beats are going, but it doesn't matter because it's super interesting to kind of see how it all unfolds. And you're in like just the fact of watching him, transform over the course of the movie is really really interesting. Um, And then just and I don't know, it really works. And then like just the sci-fi aspect, like, oh, is he gonna try to figure this out? Is he gonna be able to, like, stop this from happening? And like, that was the thing I was gonna say is it. You know what the ending is? Like, he's just gonna eventually
Yep.
turn into a manfly and turn into a monster. And but he's kind of accepted that, and he's just like here for the ride. Like, I'm gonna see how I'm gonna transform, and like accepts it. And then like 3/4 in, he's like, oh well, I could try to fuse with another person, a pure blooded person, and then maybe that'll give me some of my humanity back. And then in the very end, he does like try to do it with Gina Davis, but
Hmm.
like it's like a last minute kind of thing, and it's really just like he's accepted the transformation and kind of documenting the transformation, which I thought was interesting structure narrative in terms of narrative.
Yeah, I like the lightheartedness that it had in those moments too. Like when he's like, "Oh, we got the whole museum of Brundle in my medicine cabinet." Like something that he still had like a sense of humor
But he's
with
still
this
him,
how
yeah.
awful. Yeah. Which I did like, and that added that to more fun, it's really like a carnival freak show vibe, if that
In
makes
the
sense.
'80s, that's
Uh,
something that's the thing with '80s movies is like all of them are like fun for the most. There's like a lot of, not all of them. There's a lot of like '80s movies with a serious concept that have like this goofy fun vibe about it, whether it's the
yeah.
music or whether it's
It's like
like there's some
almost
like
camp.
slap, yeah, a little bit of camp. um this doesn't go full in. I think it's just Jeff Goldblum's performance. It works well. They're just
Hmm.
like, I think of him smiling with the bump, like he's got his like his bumpy face, and oh yeah, yeah, here, and he's like smiling and talking. He's like kind of excited and kind of into it and interested. Um,
Yeah, I think he's perfect for this. And with the makeup, how it was done so well with each stage, you can still see like all of his expressions. It wasn't like too like when you have makeup too much on where all you're really getting is a mouth move, Planet of the Apes, versus this was like full like facial articulation, which was nice. Um it just works. Yeah, it works. It's super cool. I love the way this movie's shot too. Um for being older movies, I'm one of those people that is regretfully like I kind of when I just see an old movie and it looks old, I just kind of don't care, don't want to see it, but I've been getting better at that.
yeah, you gotta
And
let that go. Every good, it's
this
just like music. Every decade has good movies, and like
yeah, and this is good. I think this fits, especially for like the aesthetic that and everything that they go for with we'll just keep calling it the funness. Um, works
it
real
works.
well.
It works really well in this. I feel like there's not so much to talk about because one, like a lot of people are familiar with the premise, and it's a pretty simple premise, and just like kind of watch it happen. But it's executed well. It's simple. It's executed well, and that's why this movie is a classic. And it is a remake, but like this, there's a reason why people watch this one, because of
Mhm.
the great special effects, and like the body horror is fucking freaky, and just thinking about like Gina Davis getting pregnant and the whole abortion thing is kind of wild to think
Yeah,
about with things
yeah,
going on today. Um, it's wild. The one thing
yeah. Brundle's
I did have a couple things that I had issues with is this is a product of being the 80s, but man, like the movie spends a lot of time telling you that Gina Davis has an ex boyfriend, husband, whatever. I think just boyfriend, who is also her boss, who is a huge piece of shit, like sexist, steals her credit, steals her work, does things, without her. She asks him to do something, he does the opposite. That kind of
yeah.
shit. Shows up in her house having a shower after they're not together. Like he refuses to give her back a key. Like honestly, this guy is a straight up piece of shit to modern
Mhm.
standards as far as treating women. But he still is Prince Charming in the end, comes to save the day, like brings a shotgun and to kill the fly. And I think I was like, oh yeah, he's obviously gonna get killed. As the acid is pouring all over him, I'm like, oh, he's
Yeah.
dead, because he's an asshole. And Gina Davis is gonna pick up the gun and blow off Jeff Goldblum's head, and that's going to be the end of the movie. But actually, what happens is Gina Davis is about to do it. She's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. She's about to get killed or thrown in the teleporter or whatever. And then the asshole X picks up the gun, shoots a cord on the teleporter. Somehow, really good shot for having one hand. And
with a double barrel shotgun.
A double barrel shotgun. Yeah, that isn't accurate. It doesn't really work that way. And yeah.
Was it a slug or was it a buckshot or a bird shot? I mean,
and like we don't really see what happens with them or anything. Like it's not like they're like, oh, we're back together now. It just kind of ends after that. But yeah, I kind of felt weird about that. Like how much the movie dedicated to the piece of shit boyfriend and him really. I mean, he did lose his hand and a foot.
It's just, yeah, I was gonna say, he got that stuff like burned off with acid, which I guess is his comeuppance. But yeah, I don't think that like if this were to continue and she ended up with that guy afterwards, no, that's terrible.
That's a bad message. That's a bad message.
Especially if there's that throwaway line that was like, "Oh, he was my professor when I was my senior year in college." And that's when we started dating. It's like that whole thing too, because that makes him just sound like a predator going for students.
Yeah, like, yeah, guy's a huge piece.
Yeah, POS through and through. But yeah, I don't even like the character, like the guy's like the actor or whatever. He sells being a piece of shit really well. God, all this saying piece of shit keeps reminding me of the I think you should leave sketch. To be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I can relate to that sketch a lot.
Fuck. Yeah, I don't really have any gripes with the movie though. That's weird at the end, but other than that, I mean, it's pretty much where I would want all the beats to hit for a movie like this. It's not groundbreaking at the time. It was for effects, I'm imagining, but watching it. What is this? Almost 40 years later. God damn. Almost 40 years later, it still holds up. Like cinema is still cinema, and you can only do it so many ways.
Crazy. It's crazy that this is 40 years later, nearly.
Yeah, right.
And it's only 3 years before I was born. I'm 32, so it's not quite it can't be 40 years old.
No, but it's 86.
Almost,
so
yeah, it's just wild. It's wild. Getting old, boys. Getting old. This guy John Getz is the guy who plays the boyfriend is in a bunch of shows and things. Apparently, he's in The Fly too. Also.
Oh, jeez. They brought him back. One. Do you think they gave him prosthetics
or?
Prosthetics. God damn, I don't know why I couldn't say it.
Yeah, well, it just says like father, like son. So maybe Gina Davis has the Fly baby.
Oh yeah, I read the thing. She has the Fly baby, and the kid is he's 5 years old, but he looks like a grown ass man because he's aging as quickly as a fly does. And that's all I really read. But apparently Jeff Goldblum has a cameo in it, and
Eric Stoltz plays
the 5-year-old boy,
the grown boy.
Yeah. I didn't look into it in that. I just read what the synopsis was, but
it must have been. This actually was a big. They actually tried to make it a big sequel. I thought it was just like a directed movie thing.
That's what I figured.
No, it's real. There's real actors in it.
Oh wow!
It's $38 million budget.
Jesus Christ! I was trying to figure out what the budget for this is. 9 to 15.
Yeah, the budget for Fly 2 was $38.9 million. Or no,
wow.
I'm sorry. That's the box office. No. Okay. All right. I don't know what the budget is.
Right.
I don't know what the budget is.
Well, the Fly 1 made $60 million in the box office, so I get why you'd want to go hard on the sequel. It got quadrupled.
No, it was direct. It says it was. No, it was in the box office. Yeah, it was in the box office. 29%.
Oh.
But all right. Let's wrap this up. We went too hard on Crimes of the Future, so we got to wrap it up. Actually, we haven't really been talking about The Fly that long. So, is there anything else you want to touch on with The Fly other than that it's good?
I'm trying to think of anything to say because it's a quick movie. It's only an hour and 35. It's even shorter than Crimes of the Future, and it's
just it's simple, but it
doesn't waste any time. Yeah.
Like there's like the goofy scene with like the arm wrestling, and then he takes that like 80s girl back to have
Oh yeah, that
sex.
was funny. Or like how he just bangs for hours after he fuses with the fly.
Yeah.
That's funny. And he has to be consuming sugar constantly and just nonstop moving and banging and doing gymnastics in his house or his warehouse, I should say, his lab.
What would you give The Fly?
Um, Honestly, I think I give it a 4 for what it is and when it came and what it did. It's a solid movie.
I
I don't really have
also
any.
gave it a 4.
I feel it's deserved. It's nothing like it's not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun and worth seeing for if especially if you're anyone's like getting into older 80s horror and you want something different than like Nightmare on Elm Street and like that kind of campy horror. Uh
Hellraiser.
yeah, or like the Hellraiser 1, great. The subsequent sequels. Ugh. But yeah, watch it. It's fun. It's a great time.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's Best Boys. I appreciate y'all for sticking around with us, listening. You can follow us on all the things, Twitter and Facebook and all that. Best Boys, Best Boys Film Pod. You can follow me at Slob Thomas, and you can follow him at
Story with story.
with a K.
Okay.
And yeah, that's gonna do it. I know we had something in mind for next time, but I've already forgot.
Did we?
I think we did. Um,
I'm trying to think. In theaters or was it? I feel like
I don't
nothing's
know. We'll
really.
have to talk about it
Yeah.
outside. We'll figure it out, but we will be back in 2 weeks. We will post it. We'll try to get it posted on the things, what we're going to be doing for those that watch along. But other than that, we will see y'all next time. Thanks for joining us, and goodbye.
Peace.